Hello, Reform UK! Are you fired up? Good. You should be fired up because Reform UK is on a roll. We have the wind in our sails. We are now polling at 18%, up from 14% at the general election just a couple of months ago. We've opened hundreds of Reform UK branches across the country. Our membership has surged to 80,000 people as patriots like you, ladies and gentlemen, join our movement. We have all the momentum in British politics, and we are just getting started. But we meet, ladies and gentlemen, at a time of great peril for our country. Working people in Britain feel betrayed, demoralized. They see the nation and the culture that we love being robbed from underneath us. Many of them fear walking to the local store lest they fall victim to the knife crime epidemic the Westminster elite are too cowardly to curtail. And should they raise concerns about any of this, they're insulted and they're smeared. But as awful as Labour are, they're no more than the Tories on Fast Forward. Both parties leave our border open, explode the size of the population, raise taxes, drive fuel bills up, release violent criminals from jail early, and put foreign citizens above their own. And there are real consequences to this. A third of young adults in this country cannot even afford to rent a home, let alone buy one. Their future is being robbed from them. Our health service is buckling under pressure. The Tories promised in manifesto after manifesto to bring net migration down to tens of thousands. Each time they exploded migration numbers to record highs, they left office with that number at 750,000 per year. The Tories told us what we wanted to hear, and then they betrayed every value their voters elected them to uphold. Now, new Tory leadership hopefuls are doing the rounds promising to tackle migration. This despite all of them being in the government that presided over the greatest betrayal of the British people in history. Shameless does not begin to describe it. As a result, ladies and gentlemen, the country we love is spiraling downward. Spiraling like a spluttering aircraft with multiple engines on fire. Spiraling as a result of successive Tory and now Labour regimes. But there remains time to put those fires out, to refuel midair. There remains time to soar to new heights. Doing so will take bold, decisive action. And only we can do this. Only Reform UK can do this. The party structures that underpin the Tories and Labour are too corrupted, too infiltrated. They're designed to churn out leaders who offer more of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, 14 years of catastrophic Tory mismanagement and this new Labour government have brought our country to its knees. They want us to give up. They want us to lose hope. But while this great country may be on its knees, patriots across the land are standing up. Patriots like you, the amazing men and women in this room, are standing up and saying, no, we are not having it. We are building a movement in this country, the likes of which has never before been seen. We are organizing, mobilizing, galvanizing. We are going to build a grassroots election-winning machine. If we do that, and if you do that with us, then, ladies and gentlemen, we will win the next general election. And as we embark on the next chapter of this extraordinary voyage together, let us remind ourselves why we are all here, why we must succeed on our mission. British values that undergird our very civilization have come under all-out assault. It is down to us, it is down to you, to protect and celebrate the miracle of British values. These are the values of equality before the law, the presumption of innocence, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. These are the values that have been exported across the globe. They've given rise to the United States, to Canada, to Australia. British values are the foundation on which human ideas come to flourish. It is no exaggeration that our world would look very different were it not for our great island. You know, prior to 1928, hospitals were full of people who would die of blood poisoning from a simple cut or scratch. Doctors powerless to help. That wasn't until in September 1928, when a professor of bacteriology at St. Mary's Hospital in London returned from holiday. He set about sorting through some Petri dishes when something caught his eye. That professor was called Alexander Fleming. His discovery of penicillin changed the course of history and saved over 100 million lives. The world owes a debt of gratitude to Britain. We have blazed a trail for the world, not just in science, but in the arts and in literature. We gave the world William Shakespeare and Jane Austen, George Orwell and J.K. Rowling. Charles Dickens and Ricky Gervais. British values are the ultimate gift to us. Gifts from those who conceived of them, and then the millions who laid down their lives to protect them for us. Let us not forget the sacrifices made for us to preserve this gift. Sacrifices made by men like John Greyburn. Lieutenant Greyburn was born in India and raised in Dorset. He attended Sherborne School, and then he worked for the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank before joining the war effort in 1940. He became an officer in the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry and later transferred to the newly formed Parachute Regiment. On the 17th of September 1944, as platoon commander, he led the first airborne drop into Arnhem during Operation Market Garden. Greyburn's platoon seized the Arnhem Bridge and held it under relentless enemy fire for over 3 days. Almost immediately, he was met by fierce fire from machine guns and was shot through the shoulder. Despite this, he pressed forward with extraordinary bravery. Despite having no cover, Lieutenant Greyburn continued to lead his men until the casualties became so overwhelming he was ordered to withdraw. Refusing to abandon his post, he personally directed the retreat. He insisted on being the last to leave the bridge. The enemy, recognizing his astonishing determination, resorted to extreme measures, using tanks and demolition charges. Finally, an enemy tank approached at such proximity to his position that it became impossible to hold. He was defenseless. Undeterred, Lieutenant Greyburn stood up in point-blank range of the tank and personally directed the withdrawal of his men to the main defensive line to which he had been ordered. 80 years ago to this very day, Lieutenant Greyburn was killed in action, and he was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross. Without his inspiring leadership and personal gallantry, the Arnhem Bridge could never have been held for so long. Stories like this remind us just how much is at stake, how grateful we must all be to those who made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure we enjoy the freedoms that so many now take for granted. Which is why we need patriots like you and across the country to work hard with us to save our nation. We cannot do this without your help. Time, however, is short. Our mission, urgent. The 14% of the vote share we won in July was achieved with virtually no ground campaign. By the time of the next general election, we will build the best ground campaign in the country. The enthusiasm and energy that reform has is already unsurpassed. What we need are systems and infrastructure to harness it. I've now been chairman of Reform for 2 months. In that time, we've seen our membership surge to 80,000. We've launched hundreds of Reform local constituency branches and prepared to stand thousands of candidates in local elections next year. By 2029, Reform UK will be ready to be the party of government, and a Prime Minister Farage will embark on the most ambitious and bold reforms this country has seen in our lifetime. Now, we have been told by an army of skeptics that we cannot do this. We've been told that the rotten two-party system is the only show in town. Those same cynics say we could never escape the vice-like grip of the European Union. Those same cynics said we could never win parliamentary seats. Nigel Farage has already proved those doubters wrong in the way only he can. Those same cynics now say that we could never win the next election and elect him as our Prime Minister. Well, we have news for them. Just as has happened so often before in our proud history, the indomitable spirit of the British people will prevail. Our great country has seen darker times than this, and each time the British people have risen to master that moment. Each time, proud patriots like the ones in this room and across the country have come to Britain's rescue in its time of need. Each time, Britain has emerged rejuvenated and stronger than ever. Inspired by Nigel Farage's example, we will never bow to the mob, never succumb to their intimidation, or cower in the face of their threats. For this is a battle for the soul of this nation, and we will not yield. We know in our hearts that this country can be saved. What we can achieve together is limited only by what you believe to be possible. Reform has unparalleled enthusiasm. We must now build the infrastructure to harness it. And we cannot do this without you. So we ask that if you can, please get involved in your local branch, volunteering to help knock on doors, deliver leaflets, and turning out the vote. This will be pivotal in our success. If you do that, we can make huge gains in the council elections next year, perform brilliantly in Scotland and Wales the year after that, and then we will see Nigel Farage at the podium of Downing Street, and we will usher in a new era of hope and prosperity for the United Kingdom. A Prime Minister Farage will secure our borders, freeze migration, defend and celebrate British values, stop the boats, get the knives off our streets, cut energy bills, and put British people first. We will turn this ship around. We will save this country. We will return Britain to being the poised and powerful country we know it can be, and we will leave a Britain for our children of which we can be proud. Thank you very much, Reform UK.